Hopefully you've watched part 1 of this video, and this is part 2, which focuses on assembly of the gearbox. To begin assembly, we're going to need 2 gearbox plates. Now, ordinarily I wouldn't do this, but it takes so much time just to create one plate with all the extruding and then pocketing and then filleting that it honestly would just be easier to, and much faster, to copy paste. Oh, 1 second before we do that, I missed a fillet. Okay, so I'm just going to copy paste this plate over such that they're 2.75 inches apart. Just check that. Okay, great. And then we're going to start putting in the bearings. Whenever you're importing pieces, you always want to make sure that the component is activated before importing, because let me show you what happens when it's not. You have to save your design before importing. So you can see here that it imports into like a separate component. It's not going to fall under Gearbox, and when you drag it into this, it's going to create this. You never want to see that. You never want to see cut paste in your timeline, because that might create circular dependencies in your file and you won't be able to use it. You won't be able to open it sometimes. You're going to have to restart. So you never want to see that in your file. So I'm going to activate this and then insert into the design. Another thing, you always want to move the component in the same move or copy menu as it was when you imported it, if that makes sense. So I don't want to click OK and then move it again, because that's going to create capture positions, and you just don't want those in your timeline if you can avoid it. So I'm just going to create a bunch of bearings. And then after that, I'm going to insert the motors. After that, I'm going to input the gears that go onto these shafts. And don't click this when you're point-to-pointing. You should click this part, like you can see here, this cross. And the way that you do that is just hold Command and then select here. If you don't feel like doing that to the other side, in this case it would honestly just be easier to copy paste it and do it to the other side, but I'm going to show you how to create a plane. In this case it's going to be a mid-plane, and then you just select 2 reflected sides, because we made this symmetrical, and that creates a mid-plane going down the gearbox. And then I could just select this and then create a mirror, and then that just mirrors over, and then we can hide the plane. Next I'm going to input the wheel that goes over here. I want a spacer here. Make sure that it's a new component. Hit OK, and then always name your spacers like this, so whatever length they are, plus spacer, of course. And then the wheel there is a 44 tooth. And then the next step is the 26 tooth. So we want to create a spacer here. And there's nothing else that's on this shaft, so I'm just going to create a spacer going all the way down to here. Then I need to create the spacer that's going to support the 48 tooth. So just extrude that into a new component and select this. So it's gonna make it flush. We could just round that to 0.8 and then insert the 48 tooth here. And then we need to go to WCP. And go to the double sprocket, this one. And then we can see that width chain is 0.715. So this distance to here is more than enough to accommodate that. 0.399 minus 0.715, 0.684, which divided by 2 is 0.342. So I'm just going to create an extrusion that's, let's just go with 0.3. Hide this, and then just create the extrusion from here. 2 sides and new component. Actually, I'm just going to make this one 0.2 to allow for a bit more tolerance over here. Actually, even 0.15 is good enough. We need to add the bearing block that goes here. Then do the same thing, extrude this, 2 sides, new component. So we're done with all the components. Now we just need to have a way to attach them. So we need to create the axle running through here and then create the standoffs, the 4 standoffs holding the 2 plates together. And there's one final axle that goes down the bottom, but we're going to hold off on adding that until we add the wheels, because the axle needs to run all the way from here to the end of the wheel, and currently we don't know how long that is. So this is 2.75. This is one place where getting that capture position is a bit unavoidable, because you can see I've positioned it. Now I need to click OK, go here, break the link so that I can actually edit this, and then extrude. -36 is the total length, and then just add 2.75 to that. And then again we have to move it, and that's going to create cap position. And with Thunderhacks as well, you just want to name it with the length. So this is 3.269. I'm just going to make it 3.25 because Thunderhacks is manually cut as well. Oh wait, my bad. The flange is facing outwards. For gearboxes, you want the flange to face inwards. So I'm just gonna delete delete all of these because the flanges are all facing outwards, and this is actually a great place to show you yellows and reds in the timeline. So you can see here there's a bunch of extrudes that turn yellow. You never want yellow or red in your timeline, so just go and delete all of those and we can re-extrude the spacers. Go here and insert into the current design again. That's weird. So all the spacers should have disappeared from the browser, but they didn't, so I'm just going to go delete them individually. So I'm going to hold off on making this spacer here because I'm going to need to wait for the bearing over here to do that. So now that we fixed the bearing to be facing inwards, the flanges should be facing inwards for gearboxes to prevent the axles from falling out. That brings us to the end of assembly for the gearbox. As usual, you can always refer to the slide deck for an overview of what was covered, and next up we'll be covering the power transmission, so that's chain, the remaining sprockets, wheels, things like that.